Welcome to School Council Chair Basics, everything you ever wanted to know. As we move through the workshop, you will see a little hand in the bottom right-hand corner of some slides, which indicates that there's a handout to go along with that slide. If you are familiar with the Alberta School Councils Association, or ASCA, here are some brief highlights of what we do. Working for excellence in public education and student learning success, the Alberta School Councils Association promotes the meaningful and positive engagement of parents in our public education system, primarily through school councils. We do this in a variety of ways, as you can note on the screen. As a province-wide organization of school councils, ASCA maintains three core areas of focus: development, communication, and representation. The Alberta School Councils Association is the provincial association representing parents on school councils across the province. Parents on school councils, along with the other public education partners noted on the slide, help to shape the future of Alberta's public education system. One way ASCA acquires or hears the wishes of parents on school councils is through its advocacy policy process, which your school council, as one of our members, can participate in at our ASCA AGM in April. ASCA then uses these advocacy policies to advocate on behalf of member school councils with the Education Ministry and education stakeholders to affect positive change in Alberta schools, ensuring that the parent voice is heard. Being the chair of a school council and chairing a school council meeting can be exciting, confusing, or downright scary. Having confidence with a clear understanding of chair responsibilities and processes will help to keep meetings focused and productive. Our first objective is to provide you with an overview of the chair's primary role and the responsibilities of the position. This includes, but is not limited to, building a solid and mutually respectful relationship with the school principal, ensuring communication between the chair and the school council members, the school council and the community, and the school council and the school board is open and clear, and delegation. A school council chair does not have to do everything themselves. Our second objective is to provide you with proven practices and tips on managing the meeting, from prep to follow-up, including what to do when things go sideways. First, let's do a quick refresher on school councils. The school is often viewed as the heart of the community it serves. I'm sure you've all heard the quote, "It takes a village to raise a child." The community can support the work of your school only if it is aware of what's going on, good news and bad. This gives the community a sense of connection to the school, which generates an enthusiasm and willingness to commit time, resources, and energy to support the school in achieving its short and long-term goals. School council should be that bridge to promote positive engagement in a school community. I heard a great quote from lecturer Peter DeWitt, and the quote really is impactful. Talking with families is important. You either build a bridge or a wall. That's a very powerful statement that really relates to school councils and the work that they do in the school community. They do build bridges and become the bridges, connecting parents and other community members to the school. Think about ways that your school council can be or is the bridge in your school community. The overarching purpose for a school council is to support and enhance student learning. The Ministry of Education in Alberta recognizes the value of parents and the community to be engaged in the education of children. They created legislation to mandate school councils in every Alberta school through the Education Act, Section 55, and the School Councils Regulation. The intention was to have a structured group in every school, mandated in legislation, with a defined role, to create multiple and varied opportunities for increased parental and community engagement. School councils are meant to be a parent forum, the one place where parents can provide input and advice on student learning and success. Just as ASCA is the provincial collective voice for parents in education, your school council is the collective voice for all parents in your school, not just the executive or those who can regularly attend the meetings or volunteer. So why is it called school council and not parent council? It is important to remember people who make up the membership may be more than parents. They can be staff, community members, students. And the term parent does not just mean biological mom or dad anymore. There are step parents, foster parents, guardians, grandparents, and extended family. Moving forward, it's important to identify your group as the school council. Although school council is a means for parents and educators to work together to support student success, this is the role given to school councils in the Education Act. They are an advisory body to the principal and school board. School council should be given the opportunity to advise and provide meaningful input to the principal before important decisions are made. Otherwise, the advice is pointless. School councils are an advisory body, not primarily a decision-making body. Most decisions a school council will make relate to their own operations. The actual decision-making authority of the school council is limited to determining how they want to operate to best fulfill their duties, school council operating procedures, rules of order, code of conduct, setting policies to govern school council activities at the school level, as described in the Education Act, such as policies and procedures manual, planning support activities that align with school council's purpose, and choosing what advice to provide to the principal and board on areas that relate specifically to them. It is important to remember that the principal has the ultimate decision-making authority in the school, period. This is because the principal is accountable to the superintendent and the school board for everything that happens within the four walls of the school. Now let's look at your role as council chair. Congratulations, you've been elected, selected, or voluntold to the position of school council chair. Your peers see you as a leader in the school community, have faith in your skills and abilities, and look to you for guidance on the school council. Like it or not, by stepping up to this position, you will be seen as a parent leader by other parents, school staff, especially the principal, and community members with an interest in the school. Don't let this scare you. Seize the opportunity and be confident. After all, that's what the people who asked you to take the position see in you. Being a leader is about many things, but perhaps the most important is respect. Your respect for your fellow parents and their respect for you and your ideas. You are a relationship builder, starting with the most important relationship of all, the one you have with the school principal. But there are other relationships you will forge along the way. The best relationship is a positive relationship, and as school council chair, you will be expected to build these among parents, school staff, and community. It's easy to do when times are good, but difficult times call for level heads, listening ears, and calm discussion and dialogue. Having a solid and positive relationship with the principal is beneficial to both school council chair and principal. Communication is very important for a school council chair. Acting as the school council spokesperson is linked to good, open communication, which in turn is linked to good relationships. As the school council chair, two-way communication, both with your group and beyond, is important for many reasons. It keeps everyone on the same page, no one gets surprised or blindsided, and people feel valued and listened to. Whether you know it or not, you will act as a mentor for others on the school council. They will learn from you in your leadership position and one day step up to the plate themselves thanks to your coaching. And finally, you are an organizer, from preparing for meetings to agenda setting to ensuring people follow up. This all sounds daunting, but it's not. ASCA is always here. Don't forget that important detail. We've talked for a bit about the various roles of the school council chair. Time to get into the nitty-gritty. What are the responsibilities and how do you carry them out with maximum efficiency and minimum hassle and fuss? Agenda setting, setting the tone, running a meeting, stick handling difficult situations, ensuring follow-up. The responsibilities might seem endless, but take heart. There are all sorts of ways the school council chair can ensure everything is well organized and that the meeting goes off without a hitch. In this next section of the workshop, we will explore strategies to help you with various aspects, both good and bad, of chairing a meeting. First things first, it's always a good idea to familiarize yourself with processes. As a new school council chair, one of the first things you should do is find and read the school council operating procedures or bylaws. This set of procedures should provide all sorts of valuable information, such as when the meetings are held. If you don't have operating procedures, don't worry. ASCA is always here to support you. If your school council doesn't have a set of bylaws or OPs, or they're terribly outdated and irrelevant, you can book a workshop with ASCA to develop some that fit your school council. Schedule a meeting with the principal to introduce yourself. Remember the positive relationship building, and together determine, in the absence of OPs, a process for setting the agenda, when to schedule meetings, and other details. If you haven't previously been involved at the school council meetings, it's also a good idea to read some of the previous school council minutes, and if possible, speak with the former chair to get an idea of practice and procedures used in the immediate past. A very important step is to meet with your principal. Keep it brief, but signal to the principal that you are looking forward to working with him or her for the school year, and outline some of the things you hope you as chair and the school council can accomplish. Remember, the principal is a legislated member of the school council. He or she must be a member, and the school council provides advice to the principal. So school council meetings can only be held if the principal or designate is present, even for virtual meetings. This relates back to the relationship role of a school council chair. The more positive the relationship, built on mutual respect and trust, the better the effectiveness and efficiency of the school council as a whole. In real estate, it's all about location, location, location. For school councils, it's all about relationship, relationship, relationship. The perfect world of agenda setting consists of the following elements. There's a process to allow school council members to have an opportunity to provide suggestions for agenda items and topics. The agenda is created cooperatively by the school council chair and the principal. This prevents surprises and allows for research on topics, as well as being respectful of everyone's time. The topics are relevant and appropriate to advising the principal on matters concerning the school as a whole. The agenda is distributed in advance of the meeting, typically 7 to 10 days prior, to allow people to see the topics and think about them prior to the meeting. Proven practice is to attach the previous month's draft minutes and any reports so that they can be read prior to the meeting, and thoughtful questions can be brought to the meeting for discussion. The agenda is not too full so that people groan when they see it and think that the meeting will go on for hours, nor is it too light, wasting people's time talking about fluff. You know your operating procedures, you're on board with the principal, the agenda is set and distributed. Now it's time to chair your first meeting. Nervous? You bet, but don't worry, your principal is there, and the parents who make up the school council are your supporters. Well, most of them anyway. And the more you learn, the better you will be, and better able to run smooth, efficient meetings, even in the face of those sometimes troubling characters whose sole purpose seems to be to undermine and disrupt. Meeting procedures, how formal does this have to be? After all, you're all volunteers, right? Fear not, your meeting doesn't have to be run like the sessions at the Alberta Legislature, but understanding a few of the basic concepts of meeting procedures will help you to focus on and complete the business you set out on the agenda. Rules of order are tools meant to help us. They help the meeting move along smoothly. In any meeting, unless someone takes charge, it runs the risk of descending into chaos. Using set procedures, that is, rules of order, allows everyone to have a voice. Using rules of order ensures fairness because they ensure that everyone is treated equally. This is very important at school councils where you might have seasoned veterans, brand new members, confident people, people who are nervous about speaking in public, and so on. Rules of order apply to everyone at the meeting. Using rules of order reduces repetition and ensures that no one dominates because they define some rules around discussion. Therefore, using rules of order effectively can save time, keep the group focused on the business that needs to be done, and shorten your meetings. It should be clear to you by now that following rules of order facilitates group decision-making. Please refer to handout 1. Sample rules of order and tips for directing the discussion. At one of the first meetings of the year, your school council should discuss and then set out some meeting protocols or standing rules, that is, rules and expectations for behavior at meetings. If everyone can agree to some basic behaviors, you are less likely to have problems arise. A problem with saying that you are just going to follow Robert's rules of order or some other rules is that then someone has to know them well and be an expert in them. Robert's rules are also extremely formal, and remember that school councils are meant to be a welcoming and inclusive forum for parents. They shouldn't feel intimidated. Another problem is that some of Robert's rules are not suited to school council meetings. For example, according to Roberts, on any issue, each person can speak twice, but for up to 10 minutes each time. That could make for a very long school council meeting. Decide how you will address participants. Even in the friendliest, most casual meeting settings, it is a good idea to address the person chairing the meeting as chair. There has to be one person in charge of moving the meeting along, and the chair is it. Since they have this responsibility, help them out by recognizing their unique role. Regarding everyone else, decide together how you will refer to each other. By first name is most typical at school council meetings, but it doesn't have to be. Also consider how staff who attend the meetings will be addressed. Whatever you decide, you should bring tent cards to every meeting and have members use them. That way, when someone new comes to a meeting, they will feel more comfortable and included. No speaking until recognized, no interrupting. A standard rule is that no one can just start speaking until he or she is recognized by the chair. When one person finishes, the chair says, "Thanks. Go ahead, person X," and that person begins. This should hold in all circumstances. For example, if John makes some comments and then Betty speaks, and during her comments, she responds to one of John's points, John is not allowed to just jump in and respond back. This just leads to a back and forth between two people and leaves out the whole rest of the council. The chair should just go ahead with the next speaker. John can indicate that he wants to be back on the list. If the chair feels that it is really important that John say a comment back, he or she can say, "Let's have John just respond quickly to the question about," and then go on to the next speaker. So a few speaking guidelines, like how often and how long can a member speak on each item. It is quite common to have each person speak either 2 or 3 times on an item, no more. Another good guideline is that if person A has already spoken and is back on the list to speak again, but person B, who has not spoken yet, indicates a wish to speak, then person B moves ahead of person A. None of this "I had my hand up first" stuff. The idea should always be to hear from a variety of people once or twice, not 1 or 2 people over and over again. If you set a speaking time, like 2 or 3 minutes, no one really has to sit there with a stopwatch. But if you happen to have a person who rambles on, the chair can remind them that there is a limit and then start cutting them off until they learn to be a bit briefer. Important. A common speaking guideline is that the chair gives his or her opinion or ideas at the end of a discussion, not at the start. The chair should always be trying to see what other people think and never try to influence them. So he or she should listen first and speak last. Speak to the chair. Often in meetings, two people start talking back and forth solely to each other. We want to avoid this. In very strict meetings, all comments are made directly to the chair, but this is difficult to do in a small, generally agreeable group. One possibility is to have people make general comments to the whole group looking around, but always make specific and especially contrary comments to the chair. For example, I was thinking that we could, to the whole group, but I have to disagree on this point, Chair, because I think that, directly to the chair. I also want to note that it sometimes helps really shy or introverted persons to speak all their comments directly to the chair, because the chair is looking right at them, giving subtle signs of encouragement like smiling and nodding, and this gives them more confidence. Debate the ideas, not the person. A good meeting protocol is to set that the group will never allow personal comments to be made during discussion, unless they're compliments. General discussion, and especially disagreements, must center on the topic or idea. People can say, I disagree with this idea because, but never, I disagree with John, or I think John is wrong on this. Assume the best intentions of everyone. You are all at the school council meeting in order to help your school and its students and staff. Even when you are frustrated with others on council, remember this. Everyone there has good intentions, even if you are getting frustrated with someone. Make a meeting protocol that you all will try to do this. Stay on topic. An excellent meeting protocol is that all discussion must be on the topic of the moment. We've all seen a discussion about a grade 5 field trip end up being about some member's upcoming vacation to Vancouver. Agree that if this starts to happen, you will remind each other to save those conversations for after the meeting. Support the chair. Agree that chairing is a difficult job, and you will all try to make it easier for him or her by following the protocols, by not taking offense if he or she has to rein you in during discussion, and so on. Add protocols that you think are appropriate to your group, and by all means, write them down. Hand them out at the next meeting, and always keep a few extra copies to give to new people who start coming throughout the year. The chair has 4 primary tasks during meetings. Exhibit neutrality and save your opinion until the end of the discussion to avoid influencing others. Work to put the opinions of everyone else first. Show fairness. Everyone can speak. How much can they speak? You can't let one person drone on and on, but cut off another person. Here's where having some meeting protocols can help you. Also, just because you are personal friends with one of the members does not mean that you can treat him or her any differently than the other members. Even more difficult is dealing with a person that you've had a bit of a run-in with. But as chair, you must work to do this. Be firm. Be pleasant to everyone, but be firm too. Be willing and ready to say things like, okay, that's enough on this, or look, that behavior is not acceptable at this meeting. Please speak respectfully to everyone, and so on. And control the discussion. This can be tougher than it seems. So let's see the next slide. Please refer to handout 2, Tips for Directing the Discussion. The best suggestion I have for you is to have some standard phrases that you use in various circumstances. Don't be afraid to use them in a firm, business-like manner and then move right on. When you set the agenda, establish start and end times for the meeting and also approximate times for each item. Let members know these times and remind them that if they take 30 minutes on a 10-minute item, it could be a very long meeting. Be ready to say things like, okay, this item is taking longer than we thought, so do you want to move it onto next month's agenda, or can we wrap this up? Almost always, members will choose to wrap it up. Control the length of time each member speaks. In your council, you likely won't be timing, but you should keep members from droning on. Excuse me, could you please give us your main point? We have several waiting to speak, so please keep your comments brief and focused. Keep a list of members who wish to speak on paper. This will help you to know if someone is speaking for the third time while someone who hasn't spoken at all is waiting. I've also used this paper to show a disgruntled meeting attendee that she was given fair opportunities to speak after she complained that I didn't let her talk as much as others. This list will help you to ensure that those who haven't spoken move to the head of the line, even if someone who has already spoken is in line waiting. Repetition is a killer, so keep it to a minimum. Does anyone have a point that hasn't been raised yet? I believe we understand that point. Do you have anything further? Keep one or two people from dominating. This is always difficult, but you need to work at it for the sake of the whole meeting. These people are often repeaters too. Now we've heard from you, Susan, a couple of times, so I'll ask you to hold while we hear some other opinions. John, I know you will have lots to say on this, so I'm going to hold you back for a bit. Thanks, Susan, but we just don't have time to let you speak so many times to every piece of business. I need you to make your comments more concisely and try to cover everything you want to say in one shot. Encourage quiet members, but be careful not to put them on the spot, which could be terrifying for them. We haven't heard from everyone on this. Does anyone who hasn't spoken have something to add? Jane, I wonder if you would care to share your thoughts. Seek different ideas or dissenting opinions. We've had two people speaking in favor of the motion or resolution. Is there anyone with a contrary opinion? Or does anyone have a concern or caution to raise? And direct the traffic. You are the only one to let someone cut in, to cut someone off, or to cut off the whole discussion, as long as you have a valid reason. For example, if you think someone has something specific that would clarify or explain a point under discussion, you can let them, I'm just going to ask teacher X to tell us how the after-school gym schedule works now. We're going around in circles now, so let's just take a vote and see how it plays out. Zero tolerance for bad behavior. No one can be allowed to belittle anyone else or make issues personal, or to talk about people rather than items. Joan, that's enough. I cannot allow you to talk that way about anyone. Please refer back to handout 1, Rules of Order. Remember the two methods of decision-making, consensus and voting. Typically, school councils make most of their decisions through consensus. If the opinions are split, and you as chair aren't able to determine general agreement, then voting would be appropriate. With voting, use a democratic process where majority rules. Really, all business should be done by first putting a motion on the floor and then discussing it. The reality is that at most school council meetings, the discussion takes place before any motion is put forth. Try to move toward the model of having a motion first. As soon as you realize there may be a motion resulting from the discussion, ask someone to place one on the table and then go from there. Please refer to handout 3, Making and Amending Motions. The handout provides details of making and amending motions. Amendments to motions can get rather messy unless everyone present has a basic understanding of how motions can be amended. The handout provided to you describes these points. Keep a copy handy with you at meetings, and if needed, provide copies for the other meeting attendees so that they can understand what you are asking for when possible amendments come forward. Please refer to handout 4, Other Useful Points. These additional processes or meeting tools may be helpful in some circumstances, but likely won't be used very often at your school council meeting. The handout goes into a bit of detail as to when you might use any one of these. One item to highlight now, because it needs a bit of explanation as to how to use it correctly and effectively, is point of order. That's when another member calls this out when they think that the chair has failed to call a member to order or fail to call an action out of order. For example, if one member calls another a name, or if the group is off topic, the chair will either agree with the point or not. It is most usual for the chair to agree because few people call point of order over nothing, which would be a wrong action itself. If the chair agrees, the person who did the bad behavior is considered to be out of order and the action should be corrected, and the meeting moves forward. Thinking back to the objectives of this workshop, I hope that the information provided has helped you to better understand the role and responsibilities of being a school council chair. The strategies and tips provided should give you the tools to become an effective chair. Thank you for taking the time to learn about chair basics. ASCA hopes that this workshop will help you become the best school council chair that you can be. I encourage you to visit our website for more information on school councils and the services that ASCA offers. Please contact our office anytime for more information or assistance.